Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, Bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Hello, universe. I'm afraid that today I bring you some very unfortunate news. My brother John has decided that he would no longer like to be a part of this show. Unfortunately, over the course of the past week, myself and John have been having a number of arguments over creative direction of the show, over different facets of wrestling that we find worthwhile and not worthwhile, and ultimately we were unable to come to any sort of agreement or even anything resembling an agreement. Well, to be honest, I'm frankly disappointed. And I hate to present it to you in this manner, but I wasn't really sure how else to let you know. He's decided that he's going to split off on his own, that he knows what's best for himself and the future of wrestling podcasts and the wrestling community as a whole. But I will not allow this to derail this show. We will persevere. We will continue to do what we do every week and bring you the content that you desire. If John thinks that he's going to get in the way of that, he's got another thing coming. Tommy and Taryn and myself will not stand for this kind of behavior. So John, if you're listening, you got nothing on what we're bringing to the table. Now that we have all the personal matters out of the way, I am Joe Tantillo, the J-lister, and let's get to talking some wrestling. Sorry, forgive me, I just gotta get a little pepped up here. Obviously, like I said before, I'm a bit disappointed about the proceedings of this week, but I still gotta bring you guys the content that you love. So, folks, you don't want to miss out on 1 second of Tag Me In Bro content. So go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro and join our over 8,000 followers in wrestling discussions, debates, polls, etc., giveaways in the future. You don't want to miss out on that. Now, let's get to the good stuff. The Raw rundown, the polls, the hi to people. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it.
Woo!
Today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling. So first things first, we'll cover the Raw rundown, give you the most important things you need to know about last night's show. After that, we'll go to our Height of the People segment where we engage the audience on various topics and things of interest that we are trying to gauge your opinion on. This week, we'll be discussing who do you want to see leave SummerSlam with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Will it be Kevin Owens? Will it be Braun Strowman? Who do you want? Not who do you think it will be, but who do you want? And then we move to the Indie Corner. We're going to talk about the G1 just for a hot second. That's what we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. And finally, we'll go on to our main event where we talk about the question on everybody's mind this week. And then we close out the show the same way that we do every week with our Stars of the Night. And for that main event, the question on everybody's mind this week is, why has Raw been lacking in comparison to SmackDown Live in recent months? We'll talk about that much more in the main event. But first things first, let's get to that Raw rundown.
Nobody is ready for Asuka!
Here are the only 5 things you need to know about Monday Night Raw this week. You had number 5, Elias and Lashley have begun a feud. Number 4, Braun flips the stage. Number 3, Ruby Riott returns. Number 2, Roman versus Corbin. And number 1, Ronda Rousey had a wrestling match on Monday Night Raw. So let's talk about number 5. You have Elias, who is a smoking hot, he's a heel, but people cheer him, but people boo him when they're supposed to boo him, and he's just doing everything right now. So he's doing all the right things, making all the right moves, and yet the company refuses to put him into any sort of title picture. Not to be fair, it's crowded at the top at the moment. We've got Roman versus Brock, number 6, coming up at SummerSlam, and Seth and Dolph continue to fight for that Intercontinental Championship that Elias isn't getting his hands on anyway until it's back in the hands of a babyface. So what do? You put him with Big Bobby Lashley, the white cold babyface, the opposite of white hot because he's kind of boring right now. Now that he's back out of the title picture and has been pinned by Roman, and therefore will never achieve the heights that he could have achieved if they had just made him a dominant monster for even just a little tiny minute. So you got these two appear to be going head to head. They might fight at SummerSlam. I don't believe it's official as of yet, although it may be soon. Anyway. I'm not particularly excited about this feud. I like both of these guys. I love Elias. Bobby Lashley I tolerate for the time being. He's got a lot more potential, and I'd actually prefer him as a heel as opposed to the boring babyface that he is at the moment. But we will see. Both guys are good, so you never know. They could deliver an excellent match, and both of Bobby Lashley's matches against Roman were very good. So we will see what happens. But wouldn't you just love for Elias to get the win? Because here's the problem with Elias's booking at the moment. He's kind of getting that Bray Wyatt booking where Vince clearly knows that he has something really good in him, so he keeps losing because Vince probably, like he did with Bray Wyatt, believes that he is impervious to losses. That is unfortunate, in my opinion. But I think that's what's going on. But we'll see moving forward. So number 4, Braun flipped the stage. Him and Kevin Owens have been having their feud. They're a little back and forth. Ginger's involved somehow with his gimmick where he's now a heel, but he doesn't do anything heelish, and he's very calm and peaceful. Has there ever been a faster run from WWE champion to lower mid-card comedy jobber? I do not know, possibly. But anyway, that feud this week ended with Braun flipping another thing, and it was the stage that Kevin Owens was sitting on for the Kevin Owens show, where he was doing his little spiel that he does all the time. Love Kevin Owens, love Braun. Seen enough of these two together, if I'm being completely honest. They'll wrestle again, but at least it's with the stipulation of the Money in the Bank briefcase being on the line to make that one of the more interesting matches on the SummerSlam card, in my opinion. So that is that. Let's move on to number 3. Ruby Riott has returned, and this I'm very, very excited about. I love Ruby Riott. Out of all the women that came up in the Absolution and Riott Squad move-ups that occurred back closer to the Royal Rumble, Ruby Riott is my favorite. Absolute favorite. She can talk. She can wrestle. She has a great look. Would love to see her as champion someday. I think she has a ton of potential. If Vince can move beyond wanting only blonde women to be champions, then maybe she'll get a shot. However, in the current landscape, I don't know. But she absolutely deserves it, in my opinion. I think she's earned it by showing that she has all of the skills and that she can get the crowd to boo her for the right reasons. She's made the Riott Squad into something which is just impressive. Like, think about that. She turned what should have been the lesser of the two trios into the dominant one that is still around today. She's made Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan look great. That's impressive. That's very impressive. Liv Morgan was a Carmella knockoff not that long ago, and now she is kind of her own thing with her blue tongue, which is apparently from Jolly Ranchers. So for those of you who were thinking it was something inappropriate, you were wrong, and they covered it up with a very PG reason. She likes candy. You terrible, terrible-minded people. Moving swiftly forward, Roman Reigns fought Baron Corbin in what was a fairly entertaining match. I've been digging Corbin's work recently, and I've been digging Reigns' work. The beginning of Raw, the first 30 minutes, actually, I really enjoyed. Match was good. Roman won. No surprise there. And, yeah, just entertaining. Baron Corbin, I think he's finally hit his stride with this Constable character, and I think it could be the thing that finally gets him into the main event. And finally, Ronda Rousey wrestled a match on Monday Night Raw. She faced off against Alicia Fox in the main event of Raw, which was exciting. It was definitely Ronda's worst match, but I don't necessarily blame that on her. Although it's certainly in part her, because Alicia Fox is not a bad wrestler, but she's not going to carry her in the same way that Nia did, or that Triple H and Kurt Angle were able to hide some of her weaknesses. Now, she botched that exploder suplex. It wasn't great, but those arm drags were awesome. When they let her do the judo type stuff, obviously she's fucking amazing at it. Everything she does looks like a fight, which is, there's something to be said about that. I like it for her, but I don't necessarily love it as a direction that wrestling should go in, and Vince really does seem to like the wrestling that's more simulates like a UFC fight. I don't want it to be UFC. I want it to be pro wrestling. If I want to watch UFC, I'll go watch real UFC and see some people kick the shit out of each other. But it works for Ronda. I'm not against it in her case because she does it really well. But I hope that she, continues to throw in more wrestling moves in there as well. Like she did. She tried the exploder suplex this week. It didn't quite take. I hope she goes back to it. She got the win, which was great. She absolutely should. She's continuing to improve. Her promo that she gave at the end was awesome. It was her best promo that she's delivered so far. Short, sweet, badass. Really enjoyed it. They got to keep going in that direction with her. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your Raw rundown. Now, we'd like to hear your thoughts on social media, so please let us know those. And speaking of social media, it's time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on who is going to walk away. Who do you want to walk away from SummerSlam with the Money in the Bank briefcase? Do you want Kevin Owens or do you want Braun Strowman? You can vote on Twitter by tweeting at us and using the hashtag #HotTag, or you can email at us, tagmeinbro@gmail.com if you use that sort of thing. And also, we will read out some of our favorite responses every single week. Now, let's talk about the results of last week's topic. Last week, we asked you who was the best wrestler to never hold the WWE or IWGP Championship, and we gave you 4 options based on a poll that we had run earlier where we had narrowed it down, and the options were Roddy Piper, Rick Rude, Owen Hart, and Kofi Kingston. With over 500 votes cast, 36% of you said that Roddy Piper is the best to have never held the WWE or IWGP Championship. Second place was Owen Hart with 33%, third place was Kofi Kingston, 19%, and last place was Rick Rude with 12%. There were a bunch of people that tweeted in Mr. Perfect, William Regal. They were in the initial poll, but not enough people chose them. Let's see here. Justin Tag Team T says at the Tag Team T says, I feel like Rick Rude is being crazy overlooked here. Not saying he should be leading, but surprised at the low amount of votes for him. I agree with you there. Rick Rude is just a phenomenal, but he's absolutely one of the lesser known people to modern day fans. Everybody knows Hart and Piper, especially with the stuff that Ronda is doing at the moment. Everybody's very aware of Rowdy Piper, and the fact that he, didn't ever get to hold that top belt, especially considering the great heel work he had. I mean, Piper's Pit, for God's sakes, one of my all-time favorite segments, recurring segments. Zach Ulrich, #AllIn, at Zach Ulrich 13 says, people sleeping on Rick Rude. Again, agreed. Ralph83, at Ralph180183 says, Owen Hart might have never been seen as the world title contender, but he definitely deserved to be. Owen is my pick. Yeah. Owen Hart, Hall of Fame, 2019. Seriously, get it trending. Martha, it's time. It's time to let him come home. We want it. We miss him. He deserves to be in the Hall with all those people he loved, and so he can be cherished by his fans forever and enshrined in glory. Anyway, can't wait to hear your thoughts on this week's poll. Let us know, and we will be looking forward to that.
Bullet Club is fine.
Now let's take a spin to the Indie Corner. This week we're talking about the G1. It is coming to a close soon-ish. We're building towards having some decisive winners. It's looking like it's either going to be Tanahashi, Jay White, Okada, Omega, Naito, or maybe Ibushi. Frankly, in my dream world, Ibushi would win because I would love to see Ibushi versus Kenny at Wrestle Kingdom. They won't do that because Ibushi's not a full New Japan guy. Maybe Tanahashi, wouldn't mind Omega and Tana having the match at Wrestle Kingdom, assuming Omega's still the champ. A lot of people are saying that they don't think that Omega will be the champ going into Wrestle Kingdom, that they think that Okada will reclaim it, that Naito's going to win this, and we're going to get Okada-Naito again. who knows? There's really not a bad choice at this point. Also, Jay White, like, dark horse, but man, the company's clearly very high on him. I don't think he's going to win it all, but he's really been doing some phenomenal stuff. If you haven't watched any of his matches, please go do that. You will really, really love him. If you are a WWE fan, especially if you aren't like a hardcore like Roman fan, but you like guys like Rollins and Ziggler and Finn Balor, like you'll love like a Jay White type. He's a very cool dude. Very impressed by him so far, and I gotta admit, I didn't know much about him before Wrestle Kingdom this past year. He really like came out of nowhere for me. Anyway, go watch the G1 if you haven't. The final will be coming up not too long from now. It's gonna be freaking amazing. It always is. It's almost always a 5-star match by Meltzer's scale, and always by my personal scale as well. So that's been the Indie Corner. We will see you next week for more discussion about non-WWE things. And now it's time for the main event. Welcome to the main event. Once again, I'm Joe Tantillo at JF Tantillo on Twitter. I'm not used to doing the main event without my brother, so this might be a little bit on the shorter side today, and I apologize for that. I'm just absolutely frazzled by what's been going on. Anyway, the topic this week I think is an interesting one. It's, why has Raw been lacking so much in comparison to SmackDown Live? First things first, I'm going to say it, the most obvious one that we're all thinking about. It's the reason that everybody says that Raw is not as good as SmackDown. Week after week after week, we hear it, we know it, and that is that Raw is lacking R-Truth. Lacking R-Truth, and R-Truth is the man. No, just kidding. Of course, not just kidding, R-Truth is the man, but obviously 3-hour Raw. Raw is 1 full hour longer than SmackDown Live, and yet it feels like it's 10 hours longer than SmackDown Live. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't grade Raw as harshly as a lot of other people do, but that's because I have to watch it every single week because this is my job, and I have to do my job, and I have to do it well to bring you guys the content that you want and that you deserve because you're very good fans. You're very, very good to us. Anyway, because I watch it every week, I see the little nuances and things like that, though the repetition does kill me. It's seeing the same person wrestle the same match time and time and time and time again, and yet the feuds feel like they go nowhere. And do you know why that is, in my opinion? Because there's no goddamn Universal Champion around. It's not only that, but when you can't cycle new people into a top-level feud, you just get stagnant. I mean, for the better part of 2 years, or a year and a half, whatever, it's been a long time, you've had, basically, it's just been building to Brock and Roman continuously. So you have Roman just beating down mid-card guys and jobbers and even other main event level guys, making sure that he never looks weak. And this isn't Roman. By the way, this is not a Roman rant. This is just stating what's been happening. He beats these guys, so they get stuck in this stagnant cycle where they can't move their storylines forward. You have a guy like Finn who is, absolutely main event material, but he can't get there. There's a threshold. And if he can't get there and he's not currently in the IC title picture, what's he going to do except fight stupid feuds against guys like Bray Wyatt and Baron Corbin that go nowhere because they're not about anything? Because the WWE, as much as they always say, oh, the belts don't matter that much, and it shouldn't be all about the belts, and like the man makes the championship, not vice versa, they don't really know how to give stakes to a situation where there's no belt involved. Like, any Bray Wyatt feud previous to, and even sort of including some of his stuff with Matt Hardy, was basically just about like, I'm a god, man, and whoever's fighting me is facing the inner demons, and they're gonna beat me, man, because I'm a god, man, god. And, stuff with Baron Corbin, again, is just like, I'm in charge now, because Stephanie said so, and I'm the lone wolf, but not so much anymore. Now I'm the constable, and I look much better with my head shaved, and my beard is better sculpted, and I appreciate that people are noticing on this podcast. Anyway, his stuff is mostly about like, oh, you think you're tough? Well, I'm bigger than you. Great. Mojo Rawley, similar thing. It's like, oh, I'm not hype anymore. Like, they're stuck, and Bobby Roode, just Bobby Roode's feuds are just, I'm glorious. Like, there's no character development outside of those people who actually reach the upper echelon and are challenging for either the IC title or the WWE Championship. And that, to me, is the biggest problem with Raw as compared to SmackDown Live. On SmackDown Live, not that there's tons and tons of it, but there's character development in non-title feuds. And that is invaluable to the world of professional wrestling. On Monday Night Raw, if you are not in a title feud, you get into the, just the pattern, the holding pattern, maintaining your altitude, trying not to become irrelevant, and you don't really develop as a character. Look at Elias. Now, Elias has gotten better at what he does, but he's still just the guy that comes out and plays music. And it's because he's never been pushed into that main event level where he's forced to do something new and different, and also because they haven't written anything new and different for him. Kevin Owens, when he was in the main event picture, we saw him go from a chicken shit heel through the whole Chris Jericho friend thing all the way to the Festival of Friendship, becoming like a super heel, but now he's just stuck. Now he's just stuck in this feud against Braun where it's just every week it's the same thing. It's, I'm scared of Braun, I'm going to run away. And even before he was super scared of Braun, he was still a little scared of Braun and trying to convince people to team up against Braun. A lot of people on Twitter said, do you think it's the lack of talent on Raw? I actually think Raw has some of the best talent, in the WWE. Rollins, Ziggler, Balor. I really like Corbin. Kevin Owens is phenomenal. Braun Strowman is phenomenal. Bobby Lashley can be really good. Bobby Roode is great, in my opinion, just not his current gimmick. I mean, Drew McIntyre. The caliber of talent is not the problem. And it's not necessarily even the quality of writing, because it's not that the quality is bad, because bad would involve effort, like they would have to really be trying for me to call it bad. It's just kind of nothing. Like they just kind of keep spewing out like random feuds with no stakes, with no direction, and that's why it's problematic. On SmackDown, it feels like there is progress. Like even Nakamura in his losses to Styles appeared to grow as a competitor. He grew smarter every single time. How about Jeff Hardy? He's had development. He's barely been on frickin' TV. Zelina Vega's not the best example, but rather pivoting towards Lana and Rusev and the Aiden English feud. I mean, that is a non-title feud. It's not even, it's a mid-card feud. All three of those people have developed like crazy in their stories, in their character, in their wrestling styles and ability over the course of the last year. And it's incredible to see that. And Raw just doesn't really have that. And that to me is a huge problem. If you want to have a quality wrestling program, you need to give value to all of your wrestlers, not just the main event guys. But that's another thing is even Roman has not developed as much as he should have, because it just doesn't seem like they push, mobility for character traits on Raw as much as they do on SmackDown Live. And maybe I'm mistaken, but I've been watching wrestling for a long time, and that's my biggest takeaway for the differences between these two shows. I mean, look at what Paul Heyman did for himself in just 2 weeks. That's a man who has creative control. He went from being, in literally the span of 3 episodes, he went from being the cocky, confident manager who has no problems in the world because his client is the best and he's fully supported by him, to slowly getting beaten down by the authority, to slowly fearing of losing his job, to the complete turn of Brock attacking him, becoming beaten, broken, afraid, scared, regretful. I mean, the promo by him this past week, which didn't make it into our 5 most important things because it's so far above anything else that was happening. The work that he does, that character development is what we crave. I mean, wrestling is a soap opera in every regard, except for the athleticism, and we want characters to develop and change because we're not stupid. Like, wrestling fans are some of, despite popular opinion and stereotypes, some of the smartest people that I've engaged with. We know what we like, and what we like is to see change, and not change for the sake of change, but change to show that like the characters are human and not just caricatures of themselves, which is what they've sadly become. So those are my thoughts. That's the main event for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it was on the shorter side, but my brother has failed me in that regard. Well, let's move on to the same way that we finish our show every night with our Stars of the Night. Here are our Stars of the Night for Monday Night Raw, August 6th, 2018 edition. Number 3, Roman Reigns. Roman came out, he did his thing, delivered a great promo. He's really been killing it in that regard recently. I love this Roman, and I loved it before WrestleMania as well, and I loved it before Greatest Royal Rumble, which is why I hope they finally just put the belt on him, where he's like, come on, guys, just stop. Brock he just sucks. And I like it. He's kicking ass. He's taking names. That's what Roman should do. He doesn't need to be an underdog. He needs to be a badass, and I like it. So he's on the list. Number 2, Ronda Rousey. Ronda came out, delivered a solid match, delivered a kick-ass promo. Raw debut will be remembered. I will certainly remember it. And Alicia Fox got a main event, and Ronda did that for her. So that's pretty cool. And the number 1 star of the week is Paul Heyman. The promo on Raw was one of the single greatest promos I've ever seen in my entire life. I truly, truly felt real compassion and empathy for Paul Heyman, which, to do that in a wrestling program that is often criticized for being lackluster and unoriginal, is awesome. And I'm happy he was able to convey those emotions. Damn impressive. Paul Heyman, you're number 1. You deserve it, by God. That'll do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, a number of places. Please drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. We very much appreciate it. Go on Twitter right now. Subscribe to us. Turn on notifications at Tag Me In Bro. Follow myself at JF Tantillo. Amongst my wrestling thoughts, you can see my thoughts on the terrible state of the Buffalo Bills football team and other things that happen in my life. If you have any interest with that. Thank you. I have no co-host, so for me, thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye, universe.